Hi there, my name is Lo. Welcome back to my channel, where I usually discuss luxury and contemporary handbags, but once a month we also discuss fashion news. And if you feel like the fashion world has been moving faster than you can keep up with in the month of June, I'm here to help you. From creative director Shakeups at Moschino to the insane legal battles defining the future of dupe culture, the luxury landscape is in total flux. I've taken inventory of the most critical stories you need to be aware of, so let's break them down right now. And I want to start off with new releases. We're going to pick it up at Chanel Metiers, the 2026 collection, which is arguably the most viral moment of the season. The breakout star here is the mini flap Giraffe bag. Inspired by New York City's urban jungle, Mathieu Blazy has departed from the house's more common restraint, like he's already done a couple of times, I feel like, with the crushed Chanel bag and also the Superman vanity case that we discussed last month. But in any case, this piece is a literal fusion of a gilded figurine and handbag. It is a structured rectangular mini flap in dark burgundy lambskin, but it features a fully sculpted, polished gold metal giraffe neck and head extending from one side and a tasseled metal tail on the other. And it even stands on its own 4 metal feet. It's priced upon request to be estimated around $23,000, but it seems to be already fetching up to $30,000 on the resale market. And sticking with the animal-inspired whimsy, the Chanel collection also introduced several other highly collectible creatures. There's a squirrel mini flap crafted in a dark khaki lambskin with a gold tone metal squirrel head and a fluffy real shrilling tail. And we cannot ignore the Poodle fringed flap, an incredibly complex evening bag covered in cascading glass and crystal beaded fringe that mimics a manicured Poodle. It requires over 90 hours of hand weaving and more than 77,000 individual beads. Bottega has officially expanded its premium Tosca series, scaling down their monumental Italian leatherwork into everyday micro accessories. The new additions include a highly coveted wearable AirPods Pro case and a matching keychain. These pieces feature the brand's unique paper calf intricate weave, creating a highly tactile artistic surface. I fear that Louboutin has taken the whimsy trend to a whole new level by transforming the iconic banana peel slip visual gag into a luxury shoe. Made of yellow satin, these $2,000 heels feature hand-sculpted leather panels which curl around the foot to resemble the folds of a peeled banana. The design is an homage to the footwear of Isabelle Canovas, who was renowned for transforming everyday objects into wearable sculptures. And it elevates something slightly absurd into high luxury. One of the most talked about details from the Jacquemus sun-soaked show in Corsica was the series of headscarves that became part of the garments themselves. These looks really embodied the vision of Mediterranean dressing. A close-fitting hood was tied at the nape of the neck before flowing down to the back as a long panel of fabric, draping down, seamlessly transforming into a dress or coat. It was a sculptural silhouette that feels both minimalistic and dramatic, recalling traditional headscarves and the draped silhouettes of the ancient Greek and Roman dress. Now, Owens and Adidas have shock launched a groundbreaking new apparel collaboration, shifting focus from their previous sneaker partnerships to avant-garde, climate-adaptive tracksuits. Designed in response to extreme global heat waves, these pieces function as personal, wearable air conditioning systems, and tiny battery-powered fans built into the lining pull air into the garment, causing the material to inflate into massive sculptural shapes that move sweat away from the skin. Louis Vuitton has taken luxury cycling to a whole new level with a $50,000 limited edition bicycle created in collaboration with the Italian performance brand Pinarello. The bike combines professional racing technology with LV's signature monogram detailing and premium leather accents. And it's another example of LV pushing beyond traditional luxury to blend fashion, engineering, and sports, proving that even a bicycle can become a luxury collectible. And of course, as a Dutch person, I approve. Then Hermes has opened a new store on Bond Street, which is the largest Hermes store in Europe. It occupies 6 townhouses and the massive space includes 55 individual rooms, a glass atrium designed by Foster and Partners, and it features everything from fine jewelry salons to an in-house cafe and rooftop gardens. London is now one of the only 6 cities worldwide to host an official Hermes Maison status, cementing its place as a top-tier global luxury hub. Then Rolex has also opened a new store, but it's kind of a special boutique because it's located over 3,000 meters above sea level on the summit of Mount Titlis in the Swiss Alps. The boutique is inaccessible by road, requiring visitors to take a train and a revolving cable car. Designed by Herzog and de Demuro, Couture. It blends Rolex corporate aesthetic with alpine materials like Verde Alpi marble, and it focuses heavily on hospitality, offering a lounge, bar, and panoramic views of a year-round glacier. Moving on to some creative director switches, because we haven't discussed those for a little while, but Julien Dossenat is officially stepping down as the creative director of Rabanne. After a 13-year tenure, he successfully revitalized the brand's 1960s identity, re-engineering metallic mesh and chainmail into modern runway staples, and under his leadership, the brand crossed the 1 billion euros in annual sales. Industry speculation is already running high on who will take over the helm, with names like Olivier Rousteing being floated as potential successors. Adrian Appiolaza has officially exited his role as creative director of Moschino after a brief 2.5-year tenure. His departure comes during a volatile time for the parent company F, which is grappling with financial difficulties and restructuring. While critics praised his poetic approach and archiving work, his product-focused collection struggled to reverse the brand's declining sales, leading to this mutual parting of ways. Now, the house doesn't have to be without creative direction for long. Simone Risso and Loris Messina, the founders of the independent brand Shein, have been appointed as the new co-creative directors of Moschino. They're known for treating runways as interactive performance art, think crowd-surfing models or live auctions, and they plan to treat Moschino as a cultural maison, using pop culture and irony as critical tools. This aligns perfectly with Franco Moschino's original anti-establishment philosophy. Then Paris Men's Fashion Week faced a massive controversy this year as record-breaking heat waves hit France, while the city restricted visiting hours at the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre, and they cancelled pride parades. The shows pressed on, though some were moved to the early morning, and it raised some serious questions about the industry's carbon footprint and the disconnect between fashion's grand, energy-intensive spectacles and the reality of the climate crisis. Naomi Osaka just gave Wimbledon a cultural reset. She stepped into the court in a custom look by Tokyo-based designer Hana Yagi that reimagined Wimbledon whites. Inspired by Japanese ceremonial dress and Kill Bill, the movie, the outer layer used vintage ceremonial garments, while underneath was a tennis dress inspired by kirigami, the Japanese art of paper cutting. It turned the transformation from ceremony to competition into part of the design itself, proving that even the most rigid dress codes can be challenged. And personally, I thought it was really, really beautiful. And I loved seeing something like that at Wimbledon, which can be considered fashion-wise kind of a stiff event. Now, moving into some industry news, Hermes has implemented a major corporate reform in the US boutiques this June. We are seeing a shift to a single digital profile system. You are now locked into one bag, one size, one leather, one hardware option, and one color family for a wishlist bag. And this eliminates the chance for SAs to offer spontaneous second choices. It's a win for those with a singular timeless vision, but it makes the game much harder for those who enjoy the thrill of the chase and those hoping for a flexible wish list. The viral New York Times article asking, is the handbag over, struck a massive nerve. It argued that for powerful women, not carrying a bag is the ultimate status symbol, signaling that you have assistants and drivers to handle your things. However, the data suggests otherwise. While searches for standard bags dipped slightly, searches for clothes with pockets and briefcases rose, and the global handbag market is still projected to grow significantly. The status symbol has just evolved from logo heavy to quite luxury. Now, bigger accessories are officially back. Oversized bags are reclaiming the spotlight, with oversized clutches in particular seeing a 150% surge in market adoption, and large leather hobo bags up to 133%. I'm thinking for the clutches, it must be due to the Coach Kislog bag, right? In any case, searches for oversized sunglasses are also up by 137%, and this reflects a shift away from small novelty-driven pieces toward items that balance statement scale with utility, showing that consumers are looking for pieces that offer both presence and practicality. Stockholm-based fashion label Totem is officially expanding into menswear this August. Founded by Eileen Klin and Carl Lindman, the brand has built a massive business on minimalist women's staples. Now they have hired Alexander Hagblatt, the former head of design for menswear at Celine, to replicate that quiet luxury design language for men. Fashion is struggling to meet its supply chain emission reduction targets for 2030. Progress is behind on schedule because sustainability has slipped down the corporate agenda as economic pressures mount, laws have been watered down, and brands do not directly own the sprawling network of factories that they need to invest in to make a real change. It is a roadmap problem that the industry is still trying to solve. Then shifting into legal news, Hermes' latest courtroom win saw them prevail against a seller of Hermes branded decorative objects. A Paris court drew a clear line between artistic expression and trademark infringements. The court held that the Louboutin français infringed on Hermes' trademark by reproducing logos on cans, trays, and fire extinguishers. Because why not? The court rejected the defense that these were works of satire, ruling that once you use a brand's mark for commercial presentation, an art defense becomes much harder to sustain. Then the Paris court also ruled that an upcycler's unauthorized use of genuine Chanel buttons on jewelry constitutes a trademark infringement. The court rejected the exhaustion of rights doctrine, stating that the creation of new jewelry from branded buttons create a new product and exploits the brand's reputation without authorization. And this sets a very restrictive precedent for the booming circular fashion economy. Then for an interesting copyright lawsuit, Coach and its parent company Tapestry dropped their lawsuit against the online brand Quince, and this decision happened right after a major legal loss for Deckers, which is the company that owns UGG. Now, in that separate case, a jury agreed that Quince's cheaper boots looked just like UGG's. However, the jury also ruled that UGG's official design ownership, so the patent, was invalid because the boots' look was too basic and ordinary. Now, because UGG then actually lost the design rights, Coach likely realized it faced the same danger of losing the legal rights to its own bags if it kept fighting. So they decided in the end not to do that and to drop the case. But this combined outcome makes it much harder for famous luxury brands to use the legal system to stop the cheaper dupe market. So it is quite interesting because on the one hand we see some rulings which are in favor of brands who are basically trying to fight the exploitation of their trademarks or their branding, and then on the other hand, when it comes to designs, it seems that courts, or at least the US court, is not so much ruling in favor of these brands making very strong claims on the designs that they do. Now, a lawsuit against Rainbow Shops has highlighted the ethics of AI-generated models. A model alleged that the retailer used photos from a shoot to generate entirely new images without her consent, changing poses and settings in ways that she called crude and damaging to her reputation. She has since dropped the suit as the parties look to resolve it privately, but it underscores the growing need of protections against AI likeness theft in fashion. Now, the French Consumer Protection Agency has fined Shein 22 million euros following an investigation into consumer law violations, including deficient order confirmation emails and failure to respect the mandatory 14-day return window. This is part of a broader crackdown, with total fines levied by French authorities against Shein now exceeding a whopping 210 million euros. Staying on the topic of France making life impossible for Shein, the country has also passed legislation to hamper the growth of ultra-fast fashion retailers. The law imposes fees based on product assortment, release speed, and repairability. Advertising for those retailers will also be restricted, with lawmakers likening the measures to those imposed on cigarettes and alcohol, citing environmental and health-related harm. France is truly a pioneer in pushing back against the ultra-fast fashion model. Though Paris was the first city to actually host a brick-and-mortar Shein store, things have turned around very quickly. Now, that is the news for today. A lot is changing in the industry, from how we buy our bags to how fashion is regulated. Let me know down below in the comments what you found the most interesting piece of fashion news for today, or what was your most favorite release. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you are well wherever you are. I will see you in the next one, and as we say in Dutch, doei!